Now tips to the four-path. Oh, baseless on the far outside. Senor Buscador was the wide out past the quarter pole. 3/4, 1 minute 12.74 seconds. Mandaloun has taken a short lead from a battling Midnight Bourbon. On the outside is a Proxy, then Obesos, Senor Buscador. They come past the 16th. It's Mandaloun. Mandaloun, Proxy, and Midnight Bourbon with Florent Giroux. It's Mandaloun. Mandaloun wins the Risen Star Stakes.
Welcome back to another Kentucky Derby profile here on the Racing Rundown. I'm Eric DeCoster. In this edition, we will be covering Mandaloun from the Brad Cox barn. Of course, Brad Cox is going to be bringing in the Derby favorite, likely Derby favorite, I should say, Essential Quality, but he also has Mandaloun and Caddo River, who will be joining him in the starting gate for Brad Cox's first ever Derby appearance. Mandaloun, what a interesting horse, in my opinion, for this year's Kentucky Derby. In fact, I think one of the most interesting horses in this year's Derby field. And here's why. This is a horse that is coming off a 6th place finish in the Louisiana Derby. Beat 11 lengths. No real excuses. He was wide on the turns. He got kind of ranked, looked like, heading to the clubhouse turn. First time round, seemed like he was maybe fighting Florent Giroux a little bit, but that's very nitpicky, in my opinion, to really call an excuse. And he had none, and he just dropped out. He did not run a single step that day. But what made that really weird was he was a heavy favorite, and he was coming off a huge win in the Risen Star, where he sat a beautiful stalking trip and did everything right and just, bounded home. Only won by a length and a quarter, but it was a very impressive win. Beat a pretty decent field in the process. Did everything right that day. And put up huge numbers. If you're a speed figure person, you know by all metrics, Mandaloun's number here was huge. Was in fact the 6th best Beyer speed figure that we've seen all year, and Life is Good ran the top 2. So you get rid of that horse from the Derby, and that puts Mandaloun right up there with the 4th best, I should say, the 4th best Beyer speed figure overall from this 3-year-old crop in 2021, the 4th best of this year's Derby contenders, which is very tremendous, and it's a very small margin between that 4th place position and that top number. So, I mean, that's huge. She did everything right there, which makes that Louisiana Derby run so confusing, so confusing. What was that? What happened that day? There's no excuses. Everything went right, and he just flattened out. But before that, he was really good too. So talk about a horse who won his first 2 races, sprinting last fall, stepped out to 2 turns. Was third in the LeCompte, beaten a length, finished well. Brad Cox says, we got to do one thing. We got to throw blinkers on. And that was in the Risen Star, where he ran his best career race, one of the best performances by a 3-year-old we've seen all year. So the blinkers helped there, and they obviously wouldn't have had a negative effect heading into the Louisiana Derby. So that LeCompte win is fully excusable because he was seemingly, a bit of a head case that day, and they kind of distracting himself, and they corrected that problem in the Risen Star. Once again, what happened in that Louisiana Derby? Another big thing with this horse, Florent Giroux had the option to ride this horse or to ride Caddo River, who was second in the Arkansas Derby, has been, very hyped on the Derby trail as well. He sticks with Mandaloun in this spot, and that's huge. I mean, we're talking about Caddo River, who Florent Giroux rode him in his 2 career wins to 10-length victories essentially in both of them. Yet he opts with Mandaloun, who's coming off a 6th place finish, beating 11 lengths in a Derby prep. That you got to know that there's something there with this horse. Also, just a fun fact about it, he's been favored in all 5 of his career starts, and the longest price he's ever been was 2-1 in that Risen Star. So the public obviously likes him a lot, but because of that Louisiana Derby performance, he's not going to be anywhere near those numbers. He's probably going to be, I'd say 15-1 would be the lowest he went, and probably a maximum of 23, 24, 25-1 maybe, which, I mean, that's excellent value in any race, of course. The Derby, you're going to get those prices, but I like Mandaloun. I'm going to be honest. And obviously everybody's allowed to, entitled to their own opinions, and the real purpose of these profiles is to give you the lowdown on these horses, not so much what we think about them. But I think if you can look past that Louisiana Derby run, where sure he had no excuses, but what you've seen before that, there's something there with this horse. Maybe not even to win, but to run a big race. I think he's going to run a lot better than he did in that Louisiana Derby last time out. Now, from a pedigree and distance standpoint, you do see Into Mischief as the sire there, even though Into Mischief has now sired a Derby winner kind of simmering those questions about, can Into Mischief Offspring get the distance? It still exists to some extent, but the dam side is really the huge influence. That his dam was, she could run all day. She's by Empire Maker, that Belmont winner, who his offspring in general are really great distance influences and stamina influences. Dam, sure she ran on turf mainly, but could really go a long way in her career. So that's where that infusion of distance comes from. And even in the Risen Star, he was finishing strongly. He was galloping out strongly. That was going a mile and an eighth. So he clearly has some distance in store. I don't think the extra 16th is what did him in that Louisiana Derby, because he was a long way gone before they got to the final 16th of that race. And he's also, I might add, working exceptionally. Sure, he was working exceptionally into the Louisiana Derby. I should also say that. So it's not like great works mean this horse is going to always run a great race. That's not the case. But you can never deny a horse who is moving really well, especially considering he's working over Churchill, the track he's based at, and does have a win at. Mandaloun's a good horse, plain and simple. There's a reason Florent Drew's sticking with him. There's a reason he's here off a 6th place finish in the Louisiana Derby. We've seen before the potential this horse has with that big win in the Risen Star. And if he can find that form again, he's going to be there as they come down the stretch of the Kentucky Derby. I don't know if he's going to win or lose. I can't make that decision until next, post position draws, and we get to really see how the race will shape from that draw, of course. But as things stand now, he's certainly on my list of horses I'm considering for the Kentucky Derby, and I would advise anybody listening to this to at least give him a look before tossing him, because of that bad performance last time out. That's all I have for you guys on this Kentucky Derby profile, and we will see you next time here on the Racing Rundown.